Hello everyone, today in this video I will show you how to use the Shader Hunter in Dolphin VR Redux. But first, why do we even need the Shader Hunter? When you play games that weren't designed for VR, many visual elements don't behave correctly. Things like HUDs, menus or full screen effects are meant to be flat overlays. But in VR they can end up stretched across your entire view, making them unusable. That's where the 2D virtual screen option comes in. This option takes 2D elements, like menus, HUDs or cutscenes, and places them onto a floating screen in 3D space instead of sticking them directly to your eyes. In many games this works great, like here in iNinja. But sometimes games use full screen effects like blur, bloom, or EFB copies in ways that confuse Dolphin. When that happens, the virtual screen can capture too much, not just the HUD, but also effects that shouldn't be there. And that's exactly where Shader Hunter becomes essential. Shader Hunter lets you identify exactly which shader is responsible for a specific visual element. Once you find it, you can create a shader override to control how it behaves in VR. Now let's see how to use it. Start a game, then open its properties and go to the Shader Overrides tab. Enable Shader Hunting at the top. Next, choose a hunting mode. Skip mode hides the selected shader. This is usually the fastest way to confirm you've found the right one. Pink mode highlights the shader in pink instead. This is safer if skipping would break the image or make the screen unreadable. Then choose the shader type. Most of the time you'll want pixel shaders. These control HUDs, menus and screen effects. Vertex and geometry shaders are less common but useful in some cases. Use the previous and next buttons to cycle through shaders in the current frame. Once you find what you're looking for, you can give it a name or leave it blank and let Dolphin generate one. Now let's look at the different override types with a few examples. Skip simply hides the shader. In Sonic Adventure you can skip the water effect to make Emerald Coast playable in VR. In Mario Sunshine you can remove heat haze and water effects that are uncomfortable in VR. Screen places it onto the VR virtual screen, like a floating TV in front of you. In Mario Kart, you can move the HUD to a virtual screen using the screen override. Fullscreen renders it without VR depth, which is useful for full screen effects. If you're still using the 2D virtual screen and effects are being captured incorrectly, you can apply the full screen override to those effects to fix them. It is also useful in Sonic Heroes to fix the shadow of the characters. Head locked attaches it to your view so it follows your head movement. In Metroid Prime you can make the HUD head locked so it follows your gaze. Units per meter changes the scale of objects in the world. If the world scale feels off, like Talent Fur feeling too small, you can adjust it using units per meter. It can be hard to see in 2D, so as a better example, I will change the scale of Samus's arm cannon. Flag doesn't change visuals directly, it lets other overrides react to whether a shader is present. In Mario Kart Wii, a full screen effect is only needed during the character select screen. If you leave it enabled all the time, it will break character rendering during gameplay. So instead you can use a flag override to detect when the character select screen is active. Then, you link that flag to a full screen override. This way, the effect works correctly in menus but automatically disables itself during gameplay. Also in the settings you can enable the on-screen display to see if a flag is currently active. Now, sometimes a shader is reused for multiple things. That's where filters come in. The texture filter lets you include or exclude specific textures used by the shader. You can also enable texture dumping to make this easier. With texture dumping enabled, Shader Hunter can show preview thumbnails of textures. This helps you identify the right one visually instead of relying on hashes. The draw call filter lets you target specific uses of a shader by stepping through individual draw calls. You can apply the override to just one draw call, or a range. However, it is very unstable, so don't rely on it too much. Finally, you can share your VR profiles with others. Just open the user folder and go to Game Settings VR. At the time of recording, default VR profiles aren't included yet, but you can find them on GitHub. That's it for today. Stay tuned for future updates and thanks for watching.